you brought some of it with you, and I want to give you the opportunity to kind of show our listeners and our viewers what exactly you have, because some of this stuff is just unbelievable. You're showing it to me before the show, so.
Well, we'll start with George Washington, easy name to recognize. This actually are two parts of one lock of his hair. He gave this lock to Alexander Hamilton as he was dying at Mount Vernon. And so the Hamilton family with two kids divided it. So this is what went to the son of Alexander Hamilton. This is the daughter. And this ring is braided hair in there. So this is just an amazing thing to hold the hair of George Washington. Back then, we kind of say hair. That's kind of creepy. Well, back then, that was how you passed yourself on from generation to generation. You passed on a lock of hair. And so that's from Hamilton. One of the signers of the Declaration, 56 signers. And this is kind of an interesting thing for me now, being into history, is I'll speak at law schools and speak at these really good, sharp kids. And I can ask them, I'll show them a picture of 56 signers of the Declaration and say, who can you recognize up there? And they usually get Jefferson and Franklin. I've only one time ever had somebody name a third one. I said, no, wait a minute, there's 56 guys here. Give me some more. And they never can. And so I find it interesting that basically we've been trained to recognize the two least religious guys, and we know nothing about the others. And so when you jump into this guy, he's a signer of the Declaration. His name is Francis Hopkinson. He designed the first American flag. George Washington made him one of our first federal judges. But he's a church music director and choir leader. And this is actually the first purely American hymn book. It's the first hymn book in America to ever have music in it. And what he did was set the 150 Psalms to music. So this is the entire book of Psalms set to music. His thing was, let's sing the Psalms like David sang the Psalms. So this is from a signer of the Declaration. You also have items like this. This is a Bible from 1782. This Bible from 1782 is one of the rarest in the world. They printed 10,000 copies back then. There's 8 copies left in private hands, and this is one of them. There's a few other copies in institutions. But what makes this amazing is on the inside of this Bible, and by the way, this is the first Bible printed in English in America. It has a congressional endorsement on the inside, and it says, resolved, the Congress of the United States recommend this edition of the Bible to the inhabitants of the United States. It is printed by the printer of Congress. This was explained to Congress that this was, quote, a neat edition of the Holy Scriptures for the use of schools. And you're going, wait a minute. I was told the Founding Fathers didn't want religion near school at all. And you go, well, what do you do with this? A congressionally endorsed Bible for the use of schools. So there's just so many things like that. It's kind of fun, too, to back up even to works like this. This is a guy named John Wise. He's a pastor in Massachusetts. And historians like at Cornell, they say, when you look at the 6 greatest intellectual forces that help shape America, because we are different from other nations. I know professors drive them crazy to say American exceptionalism. They hate that. The average length of a constitution in the history of the world is 17 years. This year, we're 232 years under the same constitution. So we are unique. We're the exception, not the rule. But when you take and look at where the ideas came from, professors said John Wise was one of the 6 most influential writers on the Founding Fathers' thinking. And it was this book, The Sons of Liberty. Now, this originally came out in 1710 and 1717. Sons of Liberty reprinted this in 1772. So this is the edition from the Sons of Liberty. And it has 2 long sermons in here that he did. And from these sermons, we get the phrase that all men are created equal. We get the concept they're endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights. He talks about how that taxation without representation is tyranny. He talks about how that all the forms of government in the Bible, God's preferred form is the consent of the governed. All these phrases that end up in the Declaration came out of his writings, his sermons. And so those are the kind of things we have. And you and I were talking earlier. This is a guy I really like, John Locke. The 2 treatises of government. Richard Henry Lee, signer of the Declaration, said that they, quote, copied the Declaration out of this book. And so as you go through this book, it's fun to read. I mean, the apologetics for government are amazing, but he cites the Bible, references the Bible more than 1,500 times in this. And this is what the founders used to create this successful document. So that's the kind of stuff we have. We got so much more. We've got John Hancock stuff and so many other Founding Fathers, but we just have a blast learning this stuff because it's not what we were taught in school and then sharing it with others.